Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, ModzvilleUSA here, back with another video, and this is a pretty rad tool that's gone quite under the radar that I'd like to share with you today, called P.M.A.P for the Sony Ps2. Now, if you have any experience dicking around with fat Ps2, specifically with that don't read discs, replacing lasers, using lens changer.elf to change the type of laser, etc., you will know that it's very hit or miss getting fat PS2s to read discs again. And I'm here today to show you a tool that I'm just now discovering, used once the other day, and it took this not ocean blue, it was a midnight blue PS2, the Matrix, legit Matrix Infinity, pick fix, the whole works, but CDs were taking about a minute and a half to load up, and PAL games were skipping in FMVs, all sorts of weird stuff. I did this to it, and PS1 games were booting up faster than I've ever seen a disc boot up. Same with PS2. FMV skipping totally went away. It's basically magic, and from the way I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but the eeprom on these guys stores data of what type of laser is in there, so that's got to match what you're actually using. That's what lens changer helps with, but there's also calibration data in there, and you really got to fine-tune these guys to work properly. I believe this is software that Sony would have used back in the day if you sent your PS2 in for servicing. I believe it leaked whenever all of the service documentations leaked, and it has been actively maintained. Very neat. So all you really need is some screwdrivers to get in there, service your PS2, and one of these cheapo UART FT 232 devices. They're very cheap on Amazon. Link down below for one of these. About 3 simple wires. You're going to need a soldering iron and just novice soldering experience to pull this off, and you're good to go. It also requires a bit of patience. This isn't like do it instantly, but if you have a fat PS2 that's acting wonky, highly recommend it. And it looks like it supports slims now with the latest builds. I want to be crediting, I've had a lot of help from a lot of people. Big ups Computer Booter, Nino, AccuHack, one of the main devs there in the PS2 scene, maintaining Mechapoon, maintaining this. A lot of help from a lot of people. And yeah, this is awesome. I'm mainly going off of this Reddit thread from Stra over on Reddit, and this is a nice little step-by-step of how to use this software. It is not really user-friendly, but I'll show you. We're pretty much going to be going off of this, and there's a few hiccups I had that I wanted to show you how I resolved. But first, get the software. It's an exe, and it's a command line program. So we're in the releases tab here, and we've got this guy here, and then there's the latest development build. So this adds slim chips, so that is cool. So if you've got a slim that you want to try this on, give this development build a go. So yeah, this is what I've been using if you want the more stable build and you're only using fats. Maybe try the 1.2, the latest one, but I just grabbed this and just grab the exe and put it in a folder. And just like that, I've got a PMAP folder with pmap.exe. We're all set up there. Now the big one that was hanging me up is this guy. It's going to get assigned a COM port So yeah, this guy was a bit of a hang up for me. It's going to get assigned a COM port, but the catch is the software doesn't like it being anything over COM port 4. So you're definitely going to need to check which COM port it gets assigned, and if it's anything above 4, you're going to need to manually change it to something lower, or PMAP just isn't going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to figure out what COM port it is and how to change it if need be. Okay, so we're going to come on over here to Device Manager. We've got the device plugged in over USB-C already, and we come down the ports here. There's USB serial port COM2. Now if yours is say 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, etc., it's not going to work. So you're going to want to right click, go into properties, go to port settings, I believe, advanced, and here we go, COM2. So set it to 2 was open for me already, so I set it to 2. The rest were all in use because I've hooked something up at one point that took that COM port. So yeah, you're going to want 2, 3, or 4. And COM1 is by default already set to something. So just check which COM ports are like active right now. COM1 is already something. So I set mine to COM2. If yours is already 2, 3, or 4, then you're good. You don't need to worry. And once you set it, you might need to do a reboot, and then you should be good to go. So what you're looking at here, this is a GH023 Ps2 FAT 50,000 series. Already has the retro gem installed. It's flashed with Mechapoon, and I got a pick fix installed as well. Have those on the mod shop, link below. Issue with this is the same one as the one I fixed the other day. CDs take about a minute to boot up, and that's no good. So P.M.A.P fixed this issue the other console I had, so I assume it's going to fix it on this as well. This is the more convoluted of the FATs to work on with this, because we've got 2 gears. You'll see in a second, but I'm going to show you on this one, and if you're on an earlier FAT PS2, it should be simpler for you to work on. Describe the differences as we go. So the first thing we need to do is remove the top shell on this guy. Okay, screws are out, and on the 50K, top shell just comes right off, easy peasy. If you have an earlier PS2 FAT, odds are you do. That's the bulk of them. You gotta be real careful because the power eject portion here is attached to a ribbon cable. So you're gonna want to open it like off to the side like this, and then pop out the power eject plastic bit here. Just snaps in here. You just pop it out, leave it loose. Be careful with it, and that's that. Now, specifically for the 50,000 ones, we want to remove the tray first. So I want to remove these 2 screws. On the earlier revisions, there's 4. And you can do this now too with any version, but the 50K, you really do want to do it in this sequence. I found that out the hard way when I did the other one. Okay, so with the earlier ones, you've got 2 screws here that you unscrew, and the sled just pops right out. You pull it right out. With this one, there's 2 ways to approach it. Either we can get underneath the disk drive. There's the plastic rail there. You can slide that to manually eject it, and then just the tray just slides right out. To save a bit of headache, I'm going to plug this in, press eject, and then kill the rocker switch to power it down without pushing power and closing it again. And then I'll see you once I've done that. Okay, there we go. And all we do is slide it out. Simple as that. Then we'll go ahead and bring this tray back up. Pop this guy on here for now, just to keep the moving parts safe as we flip the console over. Okay, I've torn the board down as far as we need it to be. Just the bottom metal shielding off, leaving the drive plugged in, because it's a pain to get it back plugged in. Just don't let any of these cables get torn. Be mindful of it, etc. So if you have a mod chip, apparently that could have negative effects. This right here is a pick fix. Apparently these are totally fine, so just leave this in if you have one. If you have a mod chip, simple solution to disable it for the time being would be desolder the power for it, so 3.3 volts VCC, whatever it's labeled as. Desolder that, insulate it with some Captain tape or something so it's not just floating around touching shit, and yeah, then just resolder it when you're done with all of this. Simple solution there. And yeah, so now we just need to figure out the pinout for our revision. Ours is GH23. Yours might be different, but the same idea is going to apply. Just solder to the appropriate points. So we're going to come on over here. You're floating around a couple different places. So let's see. Okay, so here's a thread on PSX place. Both Nino and Almighty Stokey working on getting a lot of these diagrams. The main one you're going to be using is linked in the Reddit thread, and it is PS2 Dev Wiki. And it's missing a few, but some of these are also floating around in other places, like GH26. That's what I did the other day. Didn't find it here, but I found it in a thread. So here's the GH026 diagram. Imagine someone's going to add that to the wiki. It's not there at the moment, but here it is if you're working on a V10 and you need it. I'm working on a V9, so we're going back to the wiki. GH23, that is me. Find yours. And we're going to wire this up. So we don't need 3.3 volts. We just need TX, RX, and ground. RMC, you tie that to ground. And what's a bit confusing is this. Let me show you. So I guess this can vary with the different UART to USB kind of devices, the way it's labeled. So you'll see TXD, it's got that outgoing arrow. RXD's got the incoming arrow. So the way this one works here is TXD goes to RX in the diagram, and TX in the diagram goes to RXD. It's like input output kind of a deal. Can throw you off, but you might have a device that's labeled to the pad that it's actually supposed to go to. If you've got some other device you're trying to use this with, but the ones I have linked, the ones we're using, if you get it, TXD goes to RX in the diagram, and RXD goes to TX in the diagram. So pretty simple. Ground, any ground point. RMC, you just do a wire to ground for that, puts it in test mode. TXD goes to RX of the diagram. RXD goes to TX of the diagram. So we're going to wire this up, and we're going to start calibrating this laser. So again, we got the RMC pad. It's tied to ground. Ground from the USB board going to ground. Any old ground, doesn't matter. This is TX, so that's going to the RX on the board. And this is RX, so it's going to the TX on the USB board. So there she goes. So what I'm going to do, I like to shoot it out to the side. You don't want it, definitely don't want it coming out in front of the disk drive, because there's going to be ejecting. Bring it out the back if you want. I like it. I kind of like it coming out to the side, so I'm going to do that. And just for now, I'm going to use some kind of tape to just tape these wires down, just so they don't get like snagged and pulled and rip a pad or something while we're working on it. Okay, so we've got this little picture-in-picture going on here. PS2 is plugged in. This guy is plugged in via USB-C. COM port 2, if you remember from earlier. Whatever you set yours to, 2 through 4 again. And I'm going to turn on the rocker switch. Going to press power. And here, let's go back to where we saved P.M.A.P. So we're going to come up here in File Explorer, click it, go CMD, boom. So we're already in the directory. Just go ahead, full screen this, fuck off malware bytes. And we're going to be following along with that very useful Reddit thread again. So I want to type in P.M.A.P COM 2, and it's open. Okay, so we got P.M.A.P up, console is on, fans working, USB device plugged in. It's detected, the app's booting up. So we're essentially going to be following along with this Reddit thread here. Get the nice visuals of what's actually going on. If you remember, the tray's already been removed. And yeah, let's just go for it. So we're in here. The first thing we're going to want to do, we're typing 4, and we're going to make sure that we've got a connection. And it can read basic commands here. So 4. And there we go. Test mode. We got some numbers. It's communicating with our PS2. That's great. Next, we are going to do Big ups to today's sponsor, PCBWAY. If you're in the market to get some PCBs manufactured, 3D print work done, or CNC machining, PCBWAY has you covered. My personal favorite is the retro stuff section under shared projects. If you find a project you like, you can order one directly from the page with the choice of having it assembled as well. The creators of these projects even get a cut from your purchase. Click the link in the description if this interests you. Now, let's get back to the show. So this portion here, it looks like it's for setting which type of laser it is. So if it's 400C, say you just switch between the same type of lasers, probably can bypass all this, but we're going to go through it anyway. And if this is all too convoluted, you can still use lens changer.elf to switch between the different types of lasers for most consoles. But let's just see here. We're going to type 1 for eeprom management. So it's got our serial, model ID, model. It knows what's up. So 9 Dragon, 15 Dragon. So this one's for dev kits. 9 is for a regular console. That's what we got. Okay, so we can do dump the EEPROM, restore the EEPROM, erase the EEPROM, load defaults. We could change between the different. We can change to a Sanyo. Looks like update EEPROM. I'm gonna go ahead and dump the EEPROM just in case. Very good. So it says we have our lens is the T609K. Okay. So it looks like I might have, let's see exactly what laser we have in here. Looks like it might be set to the yeah, we've got a 400C in here. And judging by this Reddit thread here, what we have, the T609K. Oh, no, it's right. So T609K for 400B with the yellow lens, or 400C. So this is right. Cool. So now we're going to hit Control C. We're going to reboot the PS2. And here's where it gets fancy. So get back in there. So type in PMAP and your COM port, COM2. We're going to go to 3 for mecha adjustment. We're going to type Y. We're going to type 1 for adjust mechanics. Okay, and now what we got to do is we got to get a DVD single layer. So any single layer PS2 game, even a Wii game apparently is what they use here in this Reddit thread. Movie DVD I'm sure is fine too. So just find a DVD single layer in decent condition. I'm going to put it on here, and then we're going to put the magnet on top of it. Put the magnet on. So we're going to type sled home. Now we type INITS. Okay, initialize skew. It seems init skew. Spinning up. Okay, that worked. Now we go sled out. Now we go play 1x. Spinning up. Now we type jitter 256, and then we are going to hold the enter key, as that's going to give us a continual reading here. So as you can see, we've got this hex code here. It's F5 roughly is where it is. So we want to get that as close to 0 as possible. Now if you have an earlier model, you're only going to have 1 of these white gears. On the 50K you've got 2, and from what I noticed yesterday, the left hand side seems to do larger adjustments, and the right hand side seems to be much smaller. So we're mostly going to focus here on the left, and we want to get that to as close to 0 as possible, and then we can further dial it in by tweaking the this torque screw on the laser itself. So it's in the FMVS. So I noticed last time it goes, I'm only really paying attention to that first number or letter. So it starts with numbers and then it starts getting into letters. So we want to get that into the numbers. So I assume if we turn it to the right, it should end up around 0. So it's about getting it as close as possible. Alright, it doesn't seem like I can get this laser dialed in very well, so I'm going to go ahead and try another 400C. We'll swap it in and see how tuned it can get. Maybe save this for another one, because this, I can't even get this into the number zone. It's just D's and C's and F's, and it's way out of whack. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so I reset the dots to 12 o'clock, replaced the laser, ran jitter test, and look at that, it's already way closer. 3s is what we're getting, so we're going to try to get that down to 0. So this top one, turn a bit to the left, you should get it down there pretty quick. I was talking to a lot of the lads who are doing a majority of the work with P.M.A.P, making the diagrams, etc. And I guess this is kind of a thing you can expect, is you might have a laser, it's like totally out of whack, you get bad luck, you swap it with another one, much better luck, and let's see here. It's jumping around quite a bit here. And then you use that same crappy laser later, and you might get it working in a different console. So something to expect. You might need to swap around, and if you have a bag of old, dead lasers you think are dead, it might not be. It might be fine. See if we can get that down to 2. Okay, so it's floating in the 3s here. Not quite 0, but pretty good. Much better than floating around in the C's and D's, etc. So I think we're pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and Control C, reboot or shut down the PS2. P.M.A.P COM2, open it back up. Now we'll pop this bad boy in. I'll put this sled back. Okay, so disk drive's reassembled. We're going to turn it on, and we're going to go ahead and do 2 here, the automatic elect adjustment. Go ahead and do Y. Now the tray is going to eject, and we are going to do what it says. Put in a CD, hit enter. Now you want to make sure your discs are in good condition, as good as possible, ideally. Okay, DVD single layer, so we're going to use that same Wii game we had before. We'll hit enter. Okay, well now unfortunately I couldn't get past the DVD single layer thing without it throwing a jitter error on me, but this console was handling DVDs fine. It was mainly CDs that were the issue. So at this point, I'm going to tear it out, reassemble, and see how discs are running despite it not getting past this DVD single layer test. From everything I've gathered, though, these the 50Ks are quite a bit more difficult to get dialed in with this software. So your luck's probably going to be better on the earlier models. And even though it didn't pass this, I have a feeling it's going to be running this just fine. So I'm going to reassemble and test. Well, alright, ladies and gentlemen, I was spot on. So I've done a bit of testing, and it's working like a dream, especially compared to before. If you remember, I was saying PS1 discs specifically were taking like over a minute to boot up, which is no bueno. We got PS1 right here. And I want to go ahead and show you just how quickly this boots up. So it's not going to be any cuts. I'm just going to walk over to the PS2 and hit reset. Look at that. Have you seen a PS2 boot a game that quickly? Already in the PS1 logo. Now again, this was hanging on. It would get to the browser screen and sit there for at least 30 seconds on the browser screen before it would finally fire up. So that is significantly better. Crazy fast, and we're going to go through the motion. So it was failing on single layer DVDs. Got one of those right here. I'm going to hit eject, put it in, and hit reset. Booting up very quickly. And again, the software was failing with the automatic delect adjustment on the single layer DVDs. And it seems like these are running perfectly fine. Earlier ones are going to be easier to tune. Wasn't really made with 50,000s in mind, I don't believe. They're supported. But just get it as good as you can and give it a go. For me, it's night and day better despite seeming to have failed in the automatic elect adjustment. FMVs are running beautifully. Not skipping it all, and this disc isn't even in the best shape. So I'm gonna put in God of War, hit reset, and see how double layered is doing. Booting up like a dream. All disc types, not getting anywhere near getting to the browser logo before booting up. That's how you know. It's a pretty good sign that you're in mighty fine shape. And there we go. There's Kratos. Well, alright, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be making this video a bit longer, hopefully more informative. I'm going to be working on this Ocean Blue GH-019, basically a 39001 console. This will be closer to, majority of consoles. The 50,000s are quite a bit different by the way they're constructed and the way the disk drive is. And yeah, so the state of this console currently is it plays CDs, DVDs, like regular discs. It plays pretty much fine. However, burned media, it does not care for and really struggles with. So I'm doing a bit of tinkering, and we are going to try to dial in the laser as good as possible in the software and use freshly burned discs. I've got some nice media here. I burned a CD, a single layer DVD, and a double layer DVD. So we're going to try calibrating with those and see if that improves how it functions with burned discs. This is all theoretical. Experimenting, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but we're going to go through the motions, and you're going to see how it's done either way. Whether you use burned discs or CDs, double layered DVDs, and single layered DVDs that are in good condition. It's up to you, but that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm trying, and we'll see how it works out. But yeah, it's already wired up. Use the diagrams, and as for the mod chip, I disabled it by removing the 3.3 volt line, insulating it so we don't have a live 3.3 volt line just floating around. That would be stupid. And we're going to put it back together, dial in the laser, and see how it goes. Okay, so it's put back together as we need it to be. Make sure your controller cable isn't shorting out on the metal shielding. It shouldn't be, but just be mindful of that. So we got 4 screws on this bad boy, and we can easily get the tray out of here without having to do anything electronic. Okay, so we pulled the top. We're going to want this guy out. Okay, and we've got I didn't recall. We had a not HD7, whatever this other Sanyo laser is here. Pulled the magnet out. We're going to need that. And we got 2 screws right here. Same type of screw as the ones that were on the drive, disk drive lid that we just pulled. So this guy lowers and brings up the tray, so you want it like this. And that's gravy. So I'm going to grab my single layer DVD that I burned. Okay, so I've got everything plugged in. Power over here, as well as the UART device plugged in over USB. So we're going to turn on the rocker. It's in standby. We're turning on the Ps2. Ps2 is on, and then we're going to load up PMAP. Coming in here where the exe is, typing CMD, the file browser again. I'm going to type PMAP and our COM port. Boom. I want to hit 4. Make sure it's being read. There she is. It is communicating. Fantastic. In test mode. Very nice. So we're going to start again here. EEPROM management number 1. Dump EEPROM. Do ocean blue 37. That is mine. Alright, so we're gonna quit out. Boom, so we're back here. Now again, we're gonna go to the mecha adjustments here. I'm gonna choose yes. I'm going to do 1 for test mechanics. And the same old bit here, so sled home, init skew. Sled out, play 1x, and then jitter 256, and hold enter. Okay, we're in the 3s, 4s, And now we're going to try to dial this to 0. So we're going to start by turning left. Okay, and on this one it seems like left goes more out of whack, so we're going to turn it clockwise instead. It seems to be the opposite from the 50,000. As for directions, let's double check that. Nope, maybe not. Yeah, it's going up again. Okay, so left it is. Nope, it's getting higher. Okay, you know what? It seems to actually be the best it's going to get from the wheel, right about where it was when we started. So from here, let's start dialing in the nut on the laser itself. Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, with this laser, with the Sanyo laser, unfortunately, this guy is not accessible while it's spinning, doing the jitter test there, so can't really dial it in while it's going. I'm going to hope that it's the same as the other laser, where clockwise brings the number down, which is how the previous one works. So my theory, just how I'm going to approach this, is I'm going to tighten this as much as I can to where the laser isn't really even comfortable moving. Like right here, it's locked in. And then I'm going to back it off lightly until it moves freely. And that is pretty good. So I'm hoping that brought us closer to 0 instead of further away. I'm gonna load it back up, test it. I'm gonna keep tinkering with it. It's just I don't have the science figured out, but it's just pretty much a combination of tweaking this wheel and then fine-tuning this nut and getting it as close to 0 as possible. So once I get it as close to 0 as possible, I'll tune back in. Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, the best I've been able to get this dialed in is the high 3s. Better than the previous laser. Not as close to 0 as I'd like, but hopefully good enough to get through all the automated portion without it throwing errors. So we shall try. Cool, so we're going to stop holding enter. I'm gonna Control C, close that out, and give this a reset. Cool. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna shut it down. I'm gonna put our tray back in. So slide it this way. This guy here. And you wanna, just right there. You wanna make sure as it pushes in, it lifts up. That's how you know that little arm is on the right track. I'm gonna lock this in here. And you might need to use, an assortment of discs. I want to try all burned discs. If I can't get past it with those, I'll use regulars, but we'll see how much we can do using burned discs. Purely experimental. I don't know what the results are going to be, but so far my results have been, even if I don't pass the automatic portion, by the end of this I end up with a laser that's working much better. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, turn it on, come back to command, go PMAP, our COM port, here we are, and we're going to hit 2, automatic elect adjustment, continue, Y. Okay, so that was odd. After a bit of fuckery, I got it working, so I manually ejected and reinserted the tray, or with the button here. Press eject, came out, put it back in, tried it again, and it said the sled was in the home position. So I went back to mecha adjustment, typed in sled out again, gave it another go, and now it's working. So it's asking me for a CD. It ejected by itself when I hit Y, as it does. So I'm going to give it this copy of Silent Hill I burned. I'm going to push enter. Huh. Okay, I've tried this a couple times with burn discs. Couldn't get very far, but I got to the double layer portion using regular discs. There we go. So I restored my EEPROM, and everything's been working a lot better since I did that. So I would highly recommend just dumping your EEPROM and not fucking with it after that. So regular PS1 disc. And I want to do my Wii Play disc because that's a single layer DVD. It does not need to be a PS2 game. It could be a game for a totally different console. Doesn't matter. It's just play around with different DVDs and see what you can get going. For the double layer, I've got God of War right here. It's in pretty okay shape. But yeah, I couldn't get very far with the burn discs, unfortunately. Hopefully it doesn't throw off the jitter thing again. Fuck yeah. Press enter. And there we go. So it calibrated with all of the discs this time. Didn't get that far last time. So we'll see if it makes an improvement to burn discs. This was already working pretty well. Just not good with burn discs. So we'll see. I want to tear everything out of here, put it back together. We'll see if it made a difference with burn discs. My hopes aren't that high. Works fantastic with getting discs to boot up faster and be more reliable. Burn discs might be a pipe dream, but we're going to find out right now. Alright, ladies and gentlemen. So everything's reassembled, and I've gone ahead and tested CDs, DVDs, and double layer DVD burn games, and they're all playing beautifully. Haven't noticed any FMV skipping. Everything's booting up quickly. It was booting up quickly before, but I was getting a lot of stuttering. Some games weren't booting. It just wasn't very reliable for burn games, and despite not calibrating properly, it's working great with every burn game I've thrown at it. So, or it calibrated, I misspoke. It calibrated properly with OEM discs. I couldn't calibrate it with my burn discs. Doesn't seem to matter. It's working very well. So go ahead, give it a restart so you can see how fast it boots. Matrix logo. And keep in mind, this is a Modbo 4 with 1.99 firmware on it, so we're not going to be getting the PS1 boot animation, but it's going to boot up. So there we go, pretty quickly, and right about now should be the missing PS1 boot animation. Just part of the deal with Modbos, and here we are. We're in game, and the real tester is FMVs. Should be coming up very quickly here. I like Silent 1 for this specifically. And here she is. No stuttering, no skipping, like a brand new PS2 with a burned disc. So yeah, I would say this is a must for mod chipped PS2s. If you're getting in there, and you've got the time to put in a bit of elbow grease, it's not a quick process. Takes some time, you know. And if you've got the time and you're using discs, 100% do it. Now this video is long enough. I'm not going to get into doing this on slims. I think it's safe to say it's going to be quite a bit easier on slims. If you want to see a video on me doing this on a slim, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to do it. I'll save it for a bit later once I'm more dialed in with this software. It's still a bit mysterious to me and magical, and I'm obviously a total noob with it. Very, very green. Just started playing with it, but as you can see, the results are phenomenal. Highly recommend giving this a try. Anyways, ModzvilleUSA signing out. Thank you for watching.